Hi, Empress Justice here, and welcome to a very special reading, astrology and tarot, where I go into the Aquarius Rahu and Leo Ketu axis, which is about to drop on the 29th of May, 2025. Now, as I'm filming this reading, it's actually the day of the new moon in Rohini. So if you want to go ahead and check out that live on Empress Justice Astrology Instagram and YouTube, if you want to go check that out, you can. Also, when it comes to private readings, I've actually closed private readings for the time being. I'm seeing one other client, but apart from that, I've actually closed private readings for the time being. And it's actually to kind of like restructure Empress Tarot and Empress Justice Astrology. So for now, I'm not doing private readings apart from one person who reached out to me during the month of April. So that is going to be that. And also, my donations are still open. So if you feel like donating to me, if you feel like my online readings are giving you everything you need, you can donate £5 or more to paypal.me/Empress Justice. I'm still taking donations. I'm just not taking on any clients at the moment because, again, I'm restructuring. My finances need to be rearranged and all that type of shit, all that type of stuff. I'm not going to go into too much detail, but it is what it is. Now, when it comes to the nodal axis of Aquarius Rahu and Leo Ketu, essentially what this is about is because we're dealing with the fixed signs here, we're dealing with self, right? But whereas Leo, as it is, reflects a level of self acceptance, right? With Leo, there's self acceptance, and with Aquarius, there's self discovery. So it's about self. And then with Aquarius, it's about power, but it's the kind of power that is given by consensus. People give you this power because they like you and they trust you. With Leo, Leo, you have power that is not given to you. You take that power through sheer force of will, right? And then you have like what you're doing this all for. With Aquarius, they do everything that they do ultimately for their own destiny and their own karma. But when it comes to Leo, they do everything for their bloodline, for where they come from. They're creating a legacy from where they come from, and they're adding their own stamp to it. So when you look at Aquarius and Leo together, you're talking about power, choice, but you're also talking about love, because Aquarius kind of finds it more easy to receive love. But they often feel trapped by it, whereas Leo craves love, but they feel like they're not really able to get as much as they deserve. And I think maybe sometimes they're right. Maybe sometimes Leo doesn't get the love that they deserve, but okay, that's for another time. So when you really condense the questions surrounding the Aquarius, Rahu, Leo Ketu, it's about power, choice, and love. That's ultimately what it's about. Now, when I uploaded an image onto TikTok of the visual representation of the Aquarius Leo nodal axis, I actually chose two lions, right? There's a dark lion and there's a golden lion. The dark lion is Purva Bhadrapada and Dhanishta. It represents Purva Bhadrapada and Dhanishta, even though you've got Shatabisha in the mix in Aquarius. And the reason why I chose the dark lion for Aquarius is because of the lion lingam being Purva Bhadrapada and the lioness yoni being Dhanishta. For those who don't know, lingam is pee-pee. The lingam is the pee-pee, and the yoni is the JJ, right? So yeah, dark lion, because of the primal nature, the sexual nature of the lion lingam and the lion yoni. That's why they're the dark lion on one side of, the dark lion represents the Rahu of Aquarius, and then the golden lion represents Purva Palguni and Magha, because not only are they the rat yoni together, they're also the lions, right? So I've put two lions together. Ultimately, what it's about is, one form of power, love, and choice is being challenged versus another. And the way we're feeling about the sort of Leo Ketu, we're becoming disillusioned with this idea that there is a bloodline, or there's a person, or there's a personality that stands head and shoulders above the rest. That's what the golden lion represents. So we're kind of disillusioned with that. But with the dark lion is still head and shoulders above the rest in terms of status. But the way in which they use that status is in a way that makes people below their status feel more powerful. In other words, the dark lion is more likable because the dark lion connects with the baser instincts of not only themselves, but everyone else around them, makes us feel comfortable. Whereas the golden lion, it takes its own divinity for granted, and therefore expects everybody else to fall in line with that divinity. But the dark lion knows better. The dark lion knows that if you really want to gain power from people, you have to appeal to their baser instincts in a way that doesn't make them feel ashamed. Or quite often in this world, we live in a world where emotions are seen as profane. And the irony is that where Aquarius is concerned, Aquarians are not very emotional, but they take care with other people's feelings a lot of the time. That's why people like them. That's why even when they're arrogant or disrespectful, Aquarians are still not hated, because they also understand like the deeper underlying comfort of what other people want. And where Aquarius is concerned with that Rahu, we can get caught up in likability politics. We can get caught up, in thinking that we're about to perform some kind of revolution, but, getting behind this really likable person. Like, we can get to thinking that, likability is more important than joy, or, that it's more important than strength, or that it's more important than, we can get to thinking that likability is more important than fairness. And that will lead us into kind of buying into our own hype a little bit with the Rahu in Aquarius. It kind of leads us to buying into our own hype and thinking to ourselves that, that just because somebody in power is liked, it makes them any different to the royalty that they're that we're all stepping away from. That just because they seem to be openly against the Leonine order, that somehow they're better than the Leonine order. That's the illusion of Rahu. That's the illusion of Rahu and Aquarius. Okay. So yeah, those were the two lions that I talked about. The illusions that will be embraced. There are two types of illusions when you're dealing with the nodal axis. There are those that will be embraced, and there are those that will be rejected. Now, I'm going to talk about the illusions that are going to be embraced with Aquarian Rahu. Okay. Now, the illusions that are going to be embraced are, I've said revolution, annihilation, consensus leadership. So the dangers of being seduced by these ideas is that we may mistake contrarianism for actual reality. We may think that just because it's the opposite of the power that we're walking away from, that suddenly it's more reasonable and it's more logical. Aquarius makes that mistake too, of thinking that just because something's contrarian, it's the same as being logical and it's the same as being reasonable. When quite often, Aquarius can actually engage in really irrational behavior, but because they're likable enough to get away with it, they often get away with it. Okay, so there's mistaking contrarianism for reality. That's the trap of falling for the illusions of Aquarius. Another trap is thinking that there's anything new under the sun. Aquarius is often associated with innovation and with, with shaking things up and, and with chaos and things like that. This is the thing, right? It was actually, I'm going to use the planetary names, all right? It was actually Uranus that gave birth to Saturn. If you follow Hellenistic astrology, and truth be told, Vedic astrology doesn't use Hellenistic astrology, but I'm going to use this as an example because I do use Uranus in my readings. In Hellenistic astrology, it is actually Uranus that gives birth to Saturn. It is Uranus that actually sets the tradition, and it's Saturn that rebels against it. Okay? Uranus is, Uranus is the one that actually, that actually created the beginning of existence, if you really want to go there, right? Symbolically, Uranus is the one that started everything. So Aquarius, rather than being, the bastions of innovation and stuff like that, what they're actually doing is they're reminding us of long forgotten traditions, long forgotten technologies, long forgotten understanding. That's what Aquarius actually does. Aquarius reminds us of our lost history. That is what Aquarius reminds us of. And every time we get it twisted, thinking that Aquarius is really thinking of the future, we get caught up in thinking that we are that we are the first people to think of certain ideas, or the first generation to think of certain ideas, or the first groups of people to think of certain ideas, when really we're not. What we're actually doing is we're going back to previous innovations and previous ideas that predate the traditions that we have now. So that's another mistake that we can make when it comes to Aquarius and Rahu. That's another illusion we can fall for. We can fall for thinking that any so-called new or unique ideas that we have, we're going to be the first to think of these things. It's not that way at all. It's not that way at all. Because even if you remove the Hellenistic myth and you actually stick to Vedic astrology, which uses 7 planets and the nodes, Aquarius is still Saturn. Saturn are the ones who set everything off. Saturn is the prima materia. Saturn is where the void of creativity comes from. It comes from Saturn. So, you know what I mean? So that's what I'm saying. We're going to be caught up in thinking that we're creating something new when we're not. So that's another danger of the illusion of Aquarius that we're likely to embrace. We're going to be obsessed with counterculture. Again, it comes back to mistaking contrarianism for reality. We're going to be obsessed with counterculture as a ticket to authenticity, right? So we're going to mistake counterculture for authenticity. That's a danger of being seduced by the illusion of Aquarius, okay? And then another danger is that we're going to have false humility and the facade of objectivity or universal consciousness. What we fail to understand with Aquarius is that none of us are objective. Not a single person on this planet is capable of objectivity. Not a single one of us. Even the ones of us who think that we're being fair and think that we're being taking in as many perspectives as possible. You can take in as many perspectives as possible, but you will never take in all of them. No living being on this planet is ever going to be objective. But Aquarius will get us to thinking that that's possible. And because Aquarius will get us to thinking that that's possible, that's where the arrogance comes in, right? Again, Leo and Aquarius do exactly the same shit. It's just the intentions are different. Leo can be arrogant and Aquarius can be arrogant. Whereas Leo is arrogant because they're holding on to their views, their values, their way of thinking, right? Aquarius can be arrogant because they think that they're actually operating on a universal principle. But remember, Saturn is in fallen Aries. They're operating from their own principle. So this is what I notice with a lot of Aquarians. A lot of Aquarians, they're right, but they're not right at the same time. They're wrong. They can be wrong on a lot of details, right? But because they believe that it's a universal thing, that what they believe is universally known or accepted, they can get really fixed on that particular opinion that they have. That's what Aquarius does. And remember, Aquarians are about self-discovery. The reason why they hold on so tight to supposed objectivity or supposed intellectualism or logic is because they are always in a perpetual state of discovering who they are. Do you understand what I mean? They're always in a perpetual state of discovering who they are. And they feel like if they hang on to ideas, if they cling to ideas, if they remain fixed in their ideas, that it means they're able to have some form of identity. Okay. So those are things that we really need to be careful of when it comes to the illusions that Aquarius Rahu will have us engaged in, right? So those are the illusions that we're going to embrace. It's self-discovery. It's thinking that anything that is avant-garde or, is automatically reality or automatically the truth. Don't get me wrong, Aquarians are very good at seeing what's already there, but seeing the future is another matter entirely. Okay. Now, let me get to Ketu in Leo, and let me get to the illusions that are going to be rejected as we move into this transit. Okay. So the illusions that are going to be rejected are going to be celebrity, royalty, decadence, and the power of will. Human beings will not tolerate people who are imposing their will on people. Okay, we can see that with Donald Trump. We can see that with Blake Lively. We are not going to accept people who impose their will on others. We're not going to accept this sort of, we're not going to accept celebrity culture in general because we see it as out of touch now. We're not going to accept that. We're not going to accept, the beauty standards that are supposed to be mainstream. We're not going to accept any of that. We're going to go our own way in that regard. And we're going to lean towards leaders, again, who seem to be the opposite to, who seem to be the opposite to celebrity and the opposite to all that stuff, when really it's just a dark mirror of it. But we are going to be rejecting the more obvious displays of big I am behavior. We are going to be rejecting that, right? Now, the dangers that are not going to be tolerated by us, this is a good thing, by the way. What we're not going to tolerate, and these are positive things. This is a positive thing that we're not going to tolerate any of this. So we're not going to tolerate adherence to anything considered elite or mainstream. We're not going to tolerate that. We are going to reject outward self-absorption and narcissism. We're going to reject obvious patterns of attention seeking. We're going to reject all that. We're not going to put up with it. We're going to insist on controlling. No. We're going to reject anybody who insists on controlling their environment and being the best at all times. We're going to reject false confidence and egotism and competition with other people. So there's going to be more focus on collaboration and power through consensus with Rahu and Aquarius than there is in one person saying, I am the big I am, listen to me, this is how we get things done, right? So we are going to reject egotistical behavior. We're going to reject the big I am. We're going to reject like emotional and like intellectual arm wrestling. We're not going to do any of that. We are going to reject that. And again, this is a very positive thing. What we embrace in Rahu is going to be negative, but what we reject in Ketu, very positive. Okay. But how do we actually reconcile the nodal axis? How do we actually reconcile this? What I've discovered with the nodes is that you have to focus on the core tenets of both the individual nodal placements and the axis as a whole. So instead of focusing on the surface level stuff of Aquarius, the contrarianism and all that, focus on the core tenets of Aquarius. Instead of focusing on, the overall shallow stuff about Leo, like, the egotism and all that, focus on the core tenet of Leo, which is joy. Joy is the core tenet of Leo. And, good deeds and karma. Karma is the core tenet of Aquarius. So we need to focus on the core tenet of both the individual signs and the axis as a whole. I've already explained the core tenets of the axis as a whole: power, choice, and love. So now we're going to get into the core tenets of Aquarius and Leo, right? So the core tenets of Aquarius are basically you controlling your own life by being part of the whole. So Aquarius is about the power of, the power of likability, and using that likability to be able to fulfill your own destiny and your own karma safely and smoothly, right? That's what it's about. But the thing with Aquarius is that they can often feel trapped by that likability, because they feel like their likability, it makes them sitting ducks sometimes. That's why when it comes to love, Aquarius can feel trapped by love. And a lot of people think that's because Aquarius is so independent and so no, they want the freedom to be able to lead their own lives and decide their own futures and decide for themselves what they are going to do with their lives, but they don't seem to understand that their likability is actually the key towards getting what they want. The love that they get, the adoration they get, it's actually the key to them living their destiny and living out their karma. It's not a detraction away from it. That's the thing that Aquarius fails to realize. So at Aquarius's core, it's about realizing that love and likability are not a detriment to your destiny. It actually fulfills your destiny. It helps you fulfill it. Right? And when it comes to, Leo is all about, if Leo is really honest with themselves, right? The only reason why Leo focuses on building their strength, focuses on not evolved Leos, evolved Leos know better, but the reason why Leos in general like to focus on their strength, like to focus on their, what they can do, their prowess, their looks, like being the baddest, right? The reason why Leos focus on that is because deep down they want love so fucking bad and they feel like they can't get it. But they don't seem to understand that a Leo shines not when they're the best, even though some Leos are very impressive, I'm not going to lie. They shine not when they're the best, but when they're actually following their own happiness. I'm going to be honest, right? With some Leos, they feel like they need to be the best. They feel like they need to be the strongest, not just so that they can be loved. That's not the only reason. They want to do their bloodline proud. They want to rep their set. Do you understand what I mean? They want to have a legacy to leave behind. But the first lesson you learn, and you learn it with Magha, is that if you're going to do that, you have to let go of your vanity. How do you let go of your vanity? You take the focus away from your strength, away from what you know you can do, and you put it towards what you truly enjoy. And instead of turning it into a competition, you make your life an ode to that enjoyment. Ironically, it's through you having joy in your life and through you focusing on your own pleasure rather than focusing on trying to control your environment, that is actually how you're able to fulfill your bloodline's legacy in a way that is actually, I'm not going to say effective, but you fulfill your bloodline in a way that is, you fulfill your bloodline's wishes by focusing on your happiness and focusing on your joy. That, as a Leo, is what you're supposed to do. That's why when you are relaxed and happy and you're cracking jokes, you shine, because that's how it was always meant to be. You were meant to have joy and share that joy with other people. So when you think about it, Aquarius and Leo have the same objective. With Aquarius, there's the focus on likability. With Leo, there's the need to reinforce likability. So likability is the thing that, is the thing that truly unites the two signs. It's the likability factor. But whereas Leo understands that it comes from joy, Aquarius understands that it actually comes from listening to people and like meeting people on their level. When you have both together, that is what really empowers the nodal axis. That's what really empowers them. That's what empowers the nodal axis. So I've got some other stuff to say. I've written some additional notes, right? So when it comes to Aquarius, I talked about how they gain love, but they truly want power. Aquarius settles for being likable because they think they can't be strong. But the tip for Aquarius, like Aquarius, you just got to stop running. You just got to stop running all the time. You got to stop running from love. You got to face it and you've got to utilize it to your advantage. There are things that you can accomplish when you're likable. Like you can actually accomplish more when you're likable than when you're not likable. That's the truth. All right. You need to stop running from love and stop running from people liking you. Stop running from that shit. Stop self-sabotaging it. Right. And you can be more go-getting and assertive and move towards your karma and your destiny. But it's something that you can't really share with other people. You have to kind of keep that under wraps as you move through life. And I feel like some Aquarians don't do that. Like you don't keep that to yourselves because like deep down, you don't feel like you'll be able to live your purpose. But when it comes to your destiny and your karma, what you're working towards, you need to keep those things to yourself so that you can move in silence. That's the best thing to do. Move in silence, like act like everybody else on the surface. But when it comes to your destiny and your karma, keep that to yourself. Because it doesn't matter how much people like you. There are certain things they are never going to understand. And there are certain things that you have to do alone. So, yeah. And also acting in accordance with karma. Make sure that when you do your public deeds, I mean, you already do this, but like when you engage in public deeds, make sure you engage in public deeds that not only feel good to people, but engage in public deeds that they actually need. Use their likability to direct people towards what is best for them. Don't just use it to get what you want. Don't just use it so that you can do whatever you want to do. Lead them towards what's best for them. Right? So that when you are dealing with Aquarius Rahu, that's the way you're supposed to deal with it. When you're dealing with a Leo Ketu, because Leo gains power, but they really want love. So just do that. Just do that. Like, let down your guard, like smile a bit more, when it comes to aesthetic, dress in a way that actually brings you joy rather than like dressing in a way that other people will like. Don't deny yourself your joy. Don't deny yourself your happiness, because that will empower you towards being who you need to be. Pay attention to others. This is the thing about Leo, right? There are things that you're usually right about. And the reason why you're usually right about it is because beneath all the bravado, beneath all the bullishness and the brutishness and stuff like that, you're actually paying attention to the world around you. You see, this is the thing, right? Fire signs are loud. And I don't know how this happened, but we associated loudness with stupidity. Just because you're loud, it don't mean you're stupid, right? But we associate loudness with stupidity. Because you're loud, Leo, because you're a loud ass fire sign, even though you're not as loud as Sag or Aries, because you're a loud ass fire sign, people often think that you're not right in what you're saying, but like logically, you're looking at the world around you, you're looking at how the world works, and you're like, maybe don't do that. Like maybe don't Like, you know, it's like Christine Wiig in Bridesmaids. She's got Magha in her chart and she's looking around at what people are doing and they're just acting crazy around her. And she's like, maybe don't do that. Maybe don't. But they don't listen to her. But that's because as a Magha, you're supposed to, like, you have to do what Aquarius does, which is use likability to like, to get people to do what they're supposed to do. And what that actually involves is, again, paying attention to what really brings you happiness. Because when you're happy, you're likable. And when you're likable, people listen to you more. So it's about being receptive to what people want as well as what they need. You understand what people need better than a lot of other people do, but you have to be receptive to what they want. And ironically, you're not going to be able to do that unless you're receptive to what you want, what brings you joy. Which brings me to my next point. Be more relaxed. Again, your joy is the shortcut. Finding your joy in life is a shortcut. Be more relaxed. Don't be so tense all the time. You know, just like every day, just take the opportunity to relax and breathe. You know, treat life as, you know, be a bit more cocktail party with the way that you treat life. Treat life as a party. Treat life as pleasure, as joy. The more that you do that is the more that you actually make people receptive to you and you gain that power, whilst at the same time gaining love too. So when it comes to Leo Ketu, that's the way we all need to handle it. We all need to use our joy as a foundation, as a core tenet of Leo. We need to focus on our joys. And as the core tenet of Aquarius, we need to use that joy and we need to use that likability to guide one another towards what we need rather than what we want. That is how we handle that axis in generalities. You know, in general, right? That's how we handle it. Okay. Yeah. I've written something else here because there's been a lot of talk about Google VO3 and the ability to make videos and films with AI, right? And a lot of people are outraged over this. And this is going to be an ongoing thing. There are going to be new technologies coming out that people are going to be outraged about. And we're going to think our outrage over technology is either new or effective when it's not either of those things. This is the thing, right? These companies that engage this technology, they like fear. They like anger, because the more fearful and angry you are when something new comes out, is the more likely you are to use it long term. The fastest no's become the biggest yeses further on down the line. This is something that business people know. Like, those who are fast to say no, eventually they're the ones who say yes for the longest. Our outrage over this technology, you see this, it goes back to Aquarius Rahu again. It's not just about technology, it's about rebellion against it, right? Contrarianism. That contrarianism will lead us into a trap, thinking that our outrage is going to, is going to stop this AI train from rolling, when really our outrage was manufactured to begin with, and it was manufactured through subacoustic frequencies that are used in social media and used in mass media in order to elicit certain responses from us. So even the outrage over AI is manufactured, and we are purposefully being forced to focus on the AI, when really it's the subacoustic frequencies that are being used among the masses that are actually manufacturing our outrage or reinforcing our outrage, so that specific companies can make money from it. It's a marketing tool through the advent of technology. And as usual, we're focused on the wrong advancements. And we're responding in a way that guarantees that not only are we going to be using it in the future, we're going to be using it heavily. Okay. Now, if you want more information about like the subacoustic frequencies, you can go to my Mother of Dragons reading I did that as part of Empress Justice Daily. You can go to that reading. I give the astrological placements and, you know, pick a card. I think I've got the pick a card on that when it was Empress Justice Daily. But I will leave the link in the description on YouTube, and you can see what I'm talking about. I made reference to that, and I've also made reference to frequency warfare. You see what I'm talking about with that Rahu and Aquarius, though, because they've got us focused on one type of technology that we think is the real problem. Yet we've got subacoustic frequencies out here that have been hardwired with our technology and with the media that we use. So we're worried, even when it comes to technology. You see how Aquarius Rahu can obscure us from what the fuck's going on? Like, you see how that can work? Yeah? Be careful. Be very careful with that Aquarius and Rahu. Be very careful. Aquarius Rahu is one of those things where, you know, you don't take it home with you. You just don't take it home with you. And on top of that, when it comes to our collective daimon is in Ketu. We have to use the Ketu to get to the Aquarius so that we're not led by the Aquarius into chaos. Do you understand what I'm saying? And this whole outrage over AI, all this counterculture stuff, it's going to lead us into chaos. So, yeah. What I've written down here is Aquarius is, you know, it's, you know, they're not opposites. They just undo each other. So usually oppositions and inversions are used interchangeably, usually, but in this particular case, Aquarius and Leos are not opposite because they're doing the exact same thing. It's just that where the inversion comes in is because of where their focus is and their methods of doing the same thing. They undo each other, but they do precisely the same things. It's just that they have different effects and different intent, right? So that's the main thing to remember about Aquarius and Leo, or any sister signs. All right. So now that I've covered that, that was a messy ass reading. I'm not going to lie to you. I need to get some water actually. Now I've got to get to the Rahu Ketu axis in earnest, and I've got to talk about the nakshatras that this axis journeys through. All right. Whew. So first, I've got to talk about the axis of Purva Bhadrapada and Uttara Palguni Ketu. Yeah. Uttara Palguni Ketu. Right. So first off, when the Rahu Ketu axis drops, it will drop on Thursday, the 29th of May, 2025 at 7:48 British Summer Time. Okay. So it will take place in the evening. When that happens, Aquarius Rahu will be in Purva Bhadrapada, like I said before, and Leo Ketu will be in Uttara Palguni, right? And when that happens, all the astrological alignments will be Punavasu Moon in Gemini, Rohini Sun and Mercury, Revati Venus, Ashlesha Mars, Magashirsha Gemini in Jupi, Uttara Bhadrapada Saturn, Vishaka ascendant in Scorpio, and Purva Palguni midheaven. Okay, so I haven't actually written down any notes for the astrological placement, so I'm going in raw, mate. I'm going in raw. You know what I mean? So first off, we have to address Rahu's trine with the ascendant. Now, with the trine, it operates in the same way as the square for me, right? They want the same things, but they do things in different ways, right? And I feel like with the Rahu and ascendant, I feel like with Vishaka kind of going into the dark side and coming out, and with Purva Bhadrapada's duality between light and dark, I feel like there are harmonious interests there. because Purva Bhadrapada is choosing between the darkness and the light, but Vishaka understands that the only way out is through. They go through the darkness to get to the light. And plus they realize where the darkness and the light can be useful. Now, after a discussion with the fellow occultist who was like really great at what they do, I'm trying to refrain from using light and dark as an expression of duality, given the history behind it. I'm trying to avoid using that, but that's the best way that I can find to use it. Or if you want to be more accurate, between divinity and animalistic primal forces, right? So Vishaka understands that the only way to really deal with the animalistic forces is to actually venture into it and then come out the other side whole and integrated. But with Purva Bhadrapada, the duality exists and you have to pick one particular side. Otherwise, following your animality will actually lead to your annihilation, where following your divinity, it actually leads to, leads to your salvation. The irony is, though, is that both Purva Bhadrapada and Vishaka have to travel through the underworld to get to the other side. That's the irony of it. It's just that with Purva Bhadrapada, because both the animal side and the divine side are so powerful, even though Purva Bhadrapada is going to move through darkness either way, they have to choose where the destination is. Whereas Vishaka has already made that choice. So I feel like collectively, during this time, I feel like all of us are going to really make definitive choices with regards to who we are as people. And I feel like regardless, we may be somewhat content with the choices that we've made. Do you understand what I mean? I feel like we will travel through the underworld, like travel through our primal understanding of who we are with this Rahu trining ascendant. I feel like we will go down to that place, and I feel like it will actually work out well for us collectively. I feel like we will actually do that. I feel like we will go through, the dark night of the soul collectively, but we will come out the other side with a better understanding of who we are, right? When it comes to Ketu, Ketu is sextile the ascendant, right? Now, for me, the sextile is very similar to the oppositions in the sense that they're doing exactly the same thing, but different intent, different reasons, right? And when it comes to Uttara Palguni and Vishaka, right, they're doing the same things, because Vishaka comes from a blessed setup. They come from a blessed setup. They come from, usually Vishaka are very, well, symbolically, right? Usually Vishaka is the outcast of a beautiful, wealthy family, and they tend to be the most beautiful within a beautiful, wealthy family. They tend to be the most beautiful. They tend to be the most qualified. It's just that they're a misfit in some way, right? So that's Vishaka. And what they tend to do is they tend to use that beauty, that charm, and that refinement to enter into another world where it becomes useful to them to use it. Only they end up being the ones who are in leadership, right? Whereas the Uttara Palguni, it's like they're doing a different thing. Like they're integrating with society. They're integrating with the society that they're a part of. They're not necessarily leading it. But because Vishaka and Uttara Palguni are sextile, there's a harmony there with regards to us going from one world where we have mastered everything, and that we don't fit into anymore, into another world where we find that we are actually changing things for the better, or using what we've learned to change things for the better and to become, leaders in a new world almost, right? Collectively, when it comes to the sextile between Ketu and the ascendant, we will find that we enter new worlds and we enter new places, we enter new types of spaces, not being out of place at all, but being very, very well integrated. to the point where we might actually be able to help people in these new environments that we find ourselves in. Okay. Now, there's also Ketu trining Critica, Uranus in Taurus. Yeah. There's also the trine to Uranus. I tried to avoid writing it because I didn't actually write Uranus down. Ugh. Empress, man, get it together. So K2, there's K2 trining Uranus. And yeah, I think it's Critica still. Critica is still in a sun dominant nakshatra, Uranus is. So yes, with K2 trining Uttara, no, sorry. With Uttara Palguni, Ketu trining Critica Uranus in Taurus, I feel like there are going to be changes towards the way that we view the past, towards the way that we meet past situations. There are going to be changes with regards to how the past manifests itself in our lives, but that change is ultimately going to be favorable. Once again, you've got two nakshatras that are doing different things for the same reasons, but because it's a trine, it's very, very harmonious. It's like it's, with Uttara Palguni, they're merging into society, and with Critica in Taurus, they're cleaning it up. They're cleaning up society by cutting out anything that's unnecessary. But with these two together, it feels like, we enter into new spaces, and we end up making those spaces better. And in this particular case, with Ketu trining Uranus, what we end up doing is we end up revisiting the past in a way that is actually beneficial to our overall growth as people. So when it comes to getting to know ourselves on a small level, where past and future are kind of harmonious with each other is that we end up embracing change, meeting our past situations in new ways that are dignified and that make things even better than they were before, right? Like we end up meeting the past in a way that actually improves upon everything now. And then on top of that, we take all this beautiful knowledge and we enter into new situations with it, and we come out the other side because it's a trine. If it was a square, I'd be a little bit worried here, but it's a trine. Yeah. So when it comes to our overall destinies and our overall purpose, right? There's some good coming out of that here, like with regards to Purva Bhadrapada Rahu and Uttara Palguni Ketu. There's some good to come out of it. Where we have to be careful, though, is that Purva Bhadrapada Rahu and Uttara Palguni in Ketu are actually square Jupiter. Now, this is where we have to be careful, because when the nodes are square Jupiter, there are going to be abundant opportunities coming in for a lot of people collectively. There are going to be a lot of abundant opportunities coming in. What we may feel tempted to do, right? What we may feel tempted to do is to actually play small at a time when we're really not supposed to do that. Again, that Aquarius Rahu gets us to thinking that if we play big, if we really allow ourselves to kind of like experience the full scope of the blessings that we've got coming, that we're upsetting the apple cart. It's one thing for you to act like the big I am, but it's another thing for you to accept the blessings and the opportunities that are right in front of you. You're supposed to accept them. Again, the only way out into divinity is through your animalistic side. And that's going to come through the blessings that come your way. Like, you have to be able to deal with these blessings without sabotaging them. And without thinking to yourself, oh, I can't control myself with all these blessings I've got coming, so I'm just going to fuck it up. No, no, just relax, right? We need to be aware of the opportunities that we have coming, and we need to take these opportunities, and we need to be graceful in the face of them, because those blessings are going to come, you know, very, very richly over the next, you know, over the next month or so. It's over a month. So there are going to be blessings coming for each of us for the next month, from this axis with Purva Bhadrapada and Uttara Palguni. We need to be ready, and we need to be accepting. And the life path number for this particular nodal axis is number 44. Number 44, it's 44-8. I haven't actually written everything for 44 yet, but like 44-8 is the, you know, 44 is a master number. It's not used by every numerologist, but I like to use it. So the number is 44-8. And the best way to utilize the number 44 energy, because it's double building. It's double building. It really embodies both Rahu in terms of what we strive towards, and it embodies Jupiter in terms of the blessings that we've got coming. So yes, we've got blessings and we've got massive changes coming because of that number 44. That number 44 is the number of, you know, the mega builder. They're the ones who build worlds, not buildings, right? So that's the number 44. They are the ones who build the society, who build the systemic structures. But I think number 22 is the world builder, and number 44 build society. Okay, so it's going to be like, yeah, a very challenging, very blessed, but very challenging month or so. And the best way for us to navigate this is to pay attention to our finances, and to ensure that we pay attention to what we are willing to accomplish. Now is a time for accomplishment. Now is not a time to let our ambitions fall by the wayside. We have to be extremely hardworking towards them, and also to manage our money better. I know I have to managing our money better is going to be very important during this time. Okay. And when it comes to, you know, when it comes to the overall picture for this reading right here, waiting to be perfect is not going to work either. We need to be willing to embrace who we are right now and make our way as who we are right now, and not who we aspire to be, not who we try to be. We need to be making our way as who we are right now of this moment. We need to release judgment from other people and focus on what is really important. We also have to do it in a way that is strategic. It's not, you know, we have to do it in a way that's strategic, and in a way that is not that upfront, if you get what I'm saying. It's like I said before with that Aquarius Rahu, the core tenet. We have to make sure that if we're focused on our destiny and our karma, that we move in silence and we move strategically. And that is exemplified right here in right here when it comes to Thursday, 29th of May 2025. Yeah. And we also need to, you know, focus on the one thing in our lives that is a constant, because that constant is going to form our accomplishments. Okay. So yeah, that was for the Rahu Ketu axis. I think what I might do is I might actually talk about the astrological placements in this video, and then I might do the tarot readings for the nodal axis on Empress Justice Tarot. I should really keep them in one video, but I'm feeling like this is going to be a long video, and this might need to be broken down into 2 parts. Okay. So that was for the 29th of May 2025, Purva Bhadrapada Uttara Palguni Ketu axis. Now I've got to get into what I call the Purva axis, right? The Purva axis, right? So for the Purva nodal axis, that takes place on the 6th of July 2025 at 10:41 a.m. British summertime. It is Purva Bhadrapada Rahu and Purva Palguni Ketu. We got a trine with the moon, and we have a sextile with the moon as well. So we've got Rahu trining the moon and Ketu sextiling the moon. Already, our emotions are likely to be very harmonized during this time. We may feel very, very comfortable at the moment because we've got trines and sextiles. So our destiny and our emotions, they may feel very aligned. We may have like little synchronicities popping up, letting us know that we're actually on the right track. So I feel like things might get quite a bit easier here during July, all right, up to December. So what we've got here in terms of the astrological placements, we've got Vishaka Libra in the Vishaka Libra moon. That explains a lot. We have got Purnavasu Sun in Gemini. We have got Pusha Mercury. We've got Kritika Venus. We've got Purva Palguni Mars and Ascendant. We've got Ardra Jupiter. We've got Uttara Bhadrapada Saturn. And we've got Rohini Midheaven. Yeah, I feel like there's a lot of union of duality here. I feel like there's a lot of, I feel like the harmony that was experienced between Purva Bhadrapada Rahu and Vishaka Ascendant in the first portion of the 29th of May, when it comes to the 6th of July 2025, with Purva Bhadrapada Rahu trining the moon like this, it is very, very beautiful harmony here. This is really, really good because it feels like when we venture into new territory, it works out, but it may work out beautifully for a lot of people. For a lot of people, it might work out beautifully. And when it comes to that sextiling with Uttara Palguni, beautiful, beautiful stuff. Beautiful stuff. Like imagine all the lovely things happening during Thursday, the 29th of May, and imagining it becoming even easier, even more mellow, even more, because our emotions are tied in with the energy of the nodes, which means there's less conflict. There's less conflict between what we're feeling and what we're supposed to be doing. So we are going to be feeling that harmony. We're going to be feeling that, which is great. The life path number for this particular axis is going to be 1. So this is actually the perfect time, whilst everything is lovely and whilst everything is, whilst we are likely to be embraced in new situations, now is the perfect time for us to go alone and do whatever it is that we want to do at this time. Now is the time to make a singular decision coming from your own heart and following that decision, because it's likely to turn out well. And the way to make the most of this energy is that when you blaze a trail alone, you do so whilst wearing, a happy attitude, a positive attitude. Like that will open so many doors. And because of those beautiful, beautiful placements with those nodes there, because of that, it will already be easy for us to find the joy in things, or to find the happiness in things, or to, meet other people where they're at. It will be very easy for us to do because it's just lovely energy, lovely balanced energy. And when it comes to everything else here, I do feel like when it comes to our own personal endeavors, I feel like we will have the tools that we need to have that get up and go to, but it won't be like really sort of pressurizing energy. Instead, it will be like, it will be open. It will be sort of joyous. It will be, there's a lot of dynamic energy there when it comes to the Purva axis, right? But it's very, very sort of like there's a real positivity there, and there's a real sense of harmony there. We're not going to struggle to do what we're supposed to do. we're not going to struggle to do what we're supposed to do during this time in summer. Okay. And this beautiful nodal axis is going to last for a good few months until the 1st of December, where we go into Shatabisha and Purva Palguni axis at 20 degrees exactly, right? So we go into the Shatabisha Purva Palguni axis on the 1st of December 2025 at 9:35 p.m. Greenwich Mean Time, all right? And yeah, this is where things get a bit trickier, predictably, actually. This is where things get a bit trickier in December onwards, right? So, first of all, let me read the placements. We've got Ashwini Moon and Midheaven. We've got Anuradha Sun and Venus. You see, like Venus with Scorpio, like already the trouble's beginning. We've got Vishaka Libra in Mercury. We've got Jeshta, you see, might be a saving grace there. We've got Jeshta in Mars. We've got Purnavasu Cancer in Jupiter. Yeah, that's another good sign. And then we've got Purva Bhadrapada Saturn, because Saturn is now retrograde. It was retrograde at some point during the Purva nodal axis, but at this time, during the 1st of December, it has now gone direct, so it's no longer retrograde at this point, right? Now, what I've got to talk about this nodal square with the sun. Yeesh. Okay. So you already know that Rahu represents the solar eclipse, right? This is where we start to get the real illusory qualities of the Aquarian Rahu come out. This is where the contrarianism and the pretense of universal knowledge, and that's where all of that stuff starts to come out, and it starts to get really ugly. When it comes to Anuradha, Sun and Venus, yeah, there's almost a neediness there. There's almost a neediness there when it comes to love, and Anuradha is also it can be short-tempered as well. So there's a neediness, and tempers might run high on top of Aquarius Rahu really kicking into gear here. Because of all the neediness that we feel, we may feel tempted to rush straight into the Aquarian aspect of Rahu, like straight into the contrarianism, straight into it's out of neediness and insecurity though. So that's the thing that we have to be careful of. And then we've got Ashwini, Moon and Midheaven. I don't know. Moon in Aries is not an enemy like that. So I feel like Ashwini, Moon and Midheaven, it might make us stuck in our ways a little bit, but I don't see where it's really a huge problem. We've got Ashlesha Ascendant. Ashlesha and Anuradha are surprisingly similar. And Ashlesha has a thing about clinging as well. But Ashlesha clings for a different reason than Anuradha clings. Anuradha clings because they feel like without love they don't have a purpose. Whereas Ashlesha clings for power. So you've got Ashlesha Ascendant making us want to cling to people that we hate so that we can turn them, or not please don't get me in trouble. Please, like Empress, I will get myself in trouble, but no, I do not mean literally. I don't mean literally, I swear to God. Like Ashlesha has this thing where if the enemy isn't a lover, then they're a threat. But Ashlesha clings to enemies either way. So they will cling to enemies out of power to transmute that enemy energy into something that they can use. Whereas Ashlesha is all about clinging to energy that they feel can properly utilize them. Either way, though, it does lead to displays of neediness and clinginess during this time in December. So that's something we really got to be careful of, all right? With Vishaka Mercury in Libra, Libra is not an enemy to Mercury, which is good. So I feel like, you know, it does temper the energy somewhat, but not by much. What I'm really happy about, though, is Jeshta and Purnavasu. Jeshta, Mars, and Purnavasu, Jupiter. That's what I'm really happy about. Because Jupiter is an exalt in Cancer. It's an exalt in Cancer. So it makes me think that blessings will be abundant. And not only will blessings be abundant, there will be things that we previously failed in or that we previously didn't get that will lead to a certain amount of success and abundance now. Where Jeshta in Mars is concerned, what we might end up doing is taking all that needy energy, all that contrarian energy, and placing it towards accomplishing something that we want to accomplish. It might actually heighten our ambitions. But then again, Mars also represents the one thing that we should do that we don't want to. So maybe, you know, having to achieve things alone is something that we might not want to do, but it might be something that we have to do in order to really utilize and make the most of this axis, right? Pura Bhadrapada in Saturn. Saturn's direct at this point, but it's a Jupiter dominant. It's the Jupiter dominant nakshatra to end them all, because you're talking about PB double Jupiter, yeah? PB Pisces double Jupiter in Saturn. Ordinarily, I would say that this was a bad thing, but no, it's not a bad thing at all. It actually tempers the Pura Bhadrapada's need for excess and annihilation. It tempers it. So that's another saving grace of this nodal axis, right? It's another saving grace here, but it's tricky. It is tricky. There is a lot of intensity floating around, and with all of that intensity floating around, it's very, very fortunate that the life path number of this particular nodal axis is 3. It's 3 at this time. Yeah, it's kind of tricky, because in order to make the most of this nodal axis, we have to be sociable. But then we might end up clinging, you understand, especially to those that are kind of our enemies. We may end up clinging. But the best way to handle this energy right here, this number 3 energy, is to stand alone and to fall back on our strengths. Yeah, that's the best way to handle this energy. And it comes back to just the Mars, right? Because just the Mars is all about achieving things on your own and also having discernment when it comes to the type of people that you hang around and the type of things that you experience. So having that discernment is going to be important. And learning when to stand alone is going to be important in order to make the most of the social nature of, you know, December until April, right? So yeah, it's a tricky time. That's where it gets tricky for me. Let me get to Shatabisha Magha axis. This is one of my favorite axes of I can't explain why. Like, it's one of my favorite Leo Aquarius axis, apart from Purva Palguni and Purva Bhadrapada. So this is one of my favorites, right? Because both nakshatras are about the underworld. But whereas Shatabisha is meant to travel into the underworld and almost never come back, because Shatabisha is supposed to go to the underworld and rule the underworld. That's what they're supposed to be doing. But with Magha, it's like they have to go through the underworld. Like they have to go through the underworld to come out the other side in a better position than they were before they started traveling. So that's Magha's journey, but they're both all about the underworld. They're both all about that, which is that's why I love this axis, right? So we're going to be experiencing all that goodness on Monday, the 20th of April, 2026 at 10:06 a.m. British Summer Time. Once again, you got Shatabisha Rahu and Magha Ketu. Yeah. You've also got the midheaven in Shatabisha, which is interesting. And then you've got the moon in Rohini. Oh, we've got this got the sun in Ashwini. We've got Saturn, Mars, and Mercury in Uttara Bhadrapada. We've got Venus in Kritika, and we've got the ascendant in Punavasu in Gemini. When it comes to the nodes, they're actually squaring the moon which is in Rohini, like the height of lunar energy is squared both Shatabisha, which is Rahu, that is also the height of lunar energy because it's a solar eclipse, and Magha, which is all about the lunar eclipse. So yeah, there's conflict there. Again, squares want the same thing, but they go about it in different ways. Magha uses their flaws to ascend the ladder and to do their bloodline proud. Rohini uses their flaws. Yeah, Rohini uses their flaws to teach people things at best, and at worst weaponize their flaws against other people, right? So Magha and Rohini are at odds. When it comes to our past, there's a part of us that feels better about how our imperfections were met, some of us. And then there are others of us who want to use past responses to their flaws in a way that weaponizes it against their enemies now, which is problematic with that square there. But when it comes to the square of Rahu, Shatabisha finds it easier to get along with people than Rohini does. Rohini has a problem with getting along with people because they can be, they have that likability too. Rohini's likable, don't get me wrong, but they're not Shatabisha likable, right? Which means that Rohini can get in trouble for weaponizing their flaws against other people. They can get in trouble for that. Shatabisha doesn't really get in trouble for that. Shatabisha gets away with murder, bruv. Murder! But like, murder. Yeah, you see me? But yeah, like, yeah. So there's conflict there too. Like our Rahu will want to strive towards being as likable as possible so that we can get away with as much as possible. But then our emotions will be like, nah, I want to cause trouble. And especially for people who don't accept my flaws, I want to cause trouble. So there's a conflict, internal conflict there. Do you understand what I mean? And there's also internal conflict between the sides of us that, actually we're rejecting Magha because again, we reject Leo, right? But, there's a part of us that's also in conflict with the side of us that, that needs people. Magha is a needy nakshatra. It needs people. It needs people to approve of it. And Rohini has this habit of masking its own neediness and using troublemaking in order to mask it. But Magha doesn't want to do that. And when it comes to our collective understanding of Ketu, we don't want to embrace that neediness. We don't want to say openly, I need to be liked. They will never say that. Instead, what we will do collectively is we will mask that need to be liked. We will mask that need to be accepted with starting trouble. And again, we would like to believe, because of that Shatabisha Rahu, that we'll fucking get away with it. Like, we'd like to believe that we will get away with it. We will not get away with it. We won't. It's better for us to just, like, again, focus on the core tenets. Magha is all about finding, like Leo in general is all about utilizing their joy to honor their lineage. And Aquarius is about using their likability in order to fulfill their destiny, their own individual destiny. We need to focus on the core tenets when it comes to this axis. Otherwise, we're just going to be lost and focusing on the wrong things. Don't try to get away with shit just because you don't feel like you fit in, is what I'm going to say to all of us collectively. Don't do that shit. Instead, again, we need to really take the lessons of the nodal axis to heart, like I said before, joy and destiny. Those are the things we need to focus on. Those are the things that we need to prioritize. Everything else is background noise. Okay? When it comes to Saturn, Mars, and Mercury, yeah, that really reinforces that it's not a good time for saber rattling, because, you know, Mars is in Pisces. The only way we're going to win anything is if we approach everything with kindness and courage, rather than needing to saber rattle, you know. So yeah, gentleness is key. Gentleness is going to be absolutely key during this time. And again, focusing on our joy and our destiny. Everything else is noise, right? The life path number for this particular transit is number 5. I call it the number of destiny, but for me, it's also the number of travel. Well, not just for me, but for everybody, it's also the number of travel, adventure, of, you know, trying different things, you know. And the way in which we ensure that we make the most of this energy is not just through learning more and researching more before we go to different places. It's also in, how do I describe this? Because Uttara Bhadrapada is magical. How do I describe this? It's like venturing to sacred places, or venturing to places with strong spiritual significance, or venturing to places that represents the jewel that is within us all. Like venturing to those places that reflect who we truly are beneath all the noise and beneath all the grime and beneath everything. The inner jewel that's inside us. Wherever it is that we venture to, those places should reflect that. And I know it doesn't make sense now, but it will later on. It will, when you watch this reading back. Okay. Now, the final nodal axis that I have to talk about, and this nodal axis is going to run from the 30th of June 2026 to the 26th of November 2026, is going to be Dhanishta Aquarius and Magha Ketu. Dhanishta Aquarius Rahu and Magha Ketu. Okay. So this nodal axis right here is going to begin on the 30th of June 2026 at 8:43 p.m. British summertime. And we have the moon in Purva Ashada, the sun in Ardra, we have Mercury, Punavasu, Venus Ashlesha, we have Mars in Kritika Taurus, we have Jupiter in Pusha. Yeah, this is perfect. This is perfect because, unless I'm mistaken, I could be mistaken, but unless I'm mistaken, Pusha is the actual exalt of Jupiter, not Purnavasu, Pusha, right? So this is Jupiter at its fullest point here. And then we've got Saturn in Uttara Bhadrapada. Like I said, it went direct in December, but just before December, it went direct. And then we've got the Mula. Oh, yes! Thank goodness for that. Okay, and then we've got Midheaven Swati. This is great. This is great. This is great. I love this. Okay, and the reason why I love this is because even though Uttara Bhadrapada and Mula are technically squared nakshatras, right? They're technically squared nakshatras. They both operate, they both do the same thing. Well, they want to do the same thing. They want to get to the root, get to the bottom of everything. This is great energy to have because the life path number of this particular transit is number 7. Number 7 is all about research. It's all about knowledge. This is great energy to work with, but only if we choose to work with it. Uttara Bhadrapada in Saturn, it might temper our delulu, but it doesn't temper the, the height of Uttara Bhadrapada's energy, which is about creating firm foundations. You can't create firm foundations if you don't know what those foundations are. And you can't have strong roots if you don't know what those roots are. So I really love Uttara Bhadrapada and Mula together. I really love them together, even though Mula and Revati are trying, right? It's all about looking deep and looking beneath. And when we utilize Saturn and the ascendant's energies, baby, the world opens up for us. The world opens up for us. And with that midheaven in Swati, once we find that strong foundation, we can build a believable world from those powerful foundations. I love this so much. But let me get to the nodes, yeah? Because the nodes are looking a bit tricky. First off, both nodes are squaring Mars and Uranus, both in Critica, which is to be expected. But also, we've got, there's a reversal here. There's a reversal when it comes to the sextile and trine, right? This time, we've got Rahu sextiling the ascendant, and we've got Ketu trining the ascendant. So we've got Magha trining Mula, yeah, understandable. And then we've got Dhanishta sextiling Mula. Oh, this energy right here, man. This energy here. Now let me get to the squares though. We've got the squares to Mars and Uranus, which means that it's not just gonna be changes that are going to arise here. They're going to be big ass changes, and they're going to be changes that are very uncomfortable for us. During this nodal axis, there are going to be very uncomfortable changes that actually provoke us into utilizing the Martian energy, which is in this case Critica. We're going to have to forcibly remove anything from our lives that are not connecting with our collective destiny. Anything that doesn't connect, anything that doesn't help us move forward collectively, we're going to mercilessly remove. Now, this can mean a political event that is about to happen that is major. It could mean that, specific leaders are cast out or specific laws are changed, or even within specific communities, there are going to be more stringent guidelines, which means certain behaviors and certain people will no longer be accepted under any circumstances. So it might actually result in that. So because of these shocking changes, we're going to be forced to make really, really strong decisions. And also there's going to be changes with our physical being, like in general as well, for all of us, not just one person. And then we have, we've got to talk about the Rahu sextiling ascendant and Ketu trining ascendant. I'm going to get into the Rahu first. Rahu sextiling ascendant, we've got Dhanishta Rahu sextiling Mula ascendant. Now, they don't have a lot in common when you really look at the situation. They don't have a lot in common. Hold on a minute. Oh, rather they do. They do have a lot in common because they're both rebellious nakshatras. They're both very rebellious. It's just that with Dhanishta, they tend to be placid underneath it all. They tend to be actually quite vulnerable. This is the difference between Mars and Ketu. Mars are quite vulnerable people. Like Mars dominant people are quite vulnerable. Whereas Ketu are actually a lot calmer and a lot more rational than you might believe. Ketu is the person that looks crazy and isn't. Whereas Mars is the person that looks brave and strong, but is really like butter underneath it all. And where Mars and Ketu truly connect is in their hidden selves, actually. So like with Dhanishta and Mula, you know, on the surface, they're very different people on the surface, but like it's in little clues that actually let you know that actually Mula and Dhanishta are very connected. And Mula can be a source of strength for Dhanishta. Where Rahu and our ascendant is concerned is that it's very likely that we will seek shelter, and we will actually seek some form of comfort for our vulnerabilities collectively. We will seek that out. And because we seek that out and because we create it in our lives, it allows us to move forward and actually, you know, get to the truth of what's going on and to rebel against society, like in meaningful ways. So I feel like this is where Rahu and the ascendant actually work here, because, you know, the contrarianism, it actually serves a purpose. It's not just about, you know, it's not just about our own space anymore. It's about what's right for everyone. Dhanishta is a very selfless, a famously selfless nakshatra, and Mula truly shines when they behave selflessly. So it's really about us selflessly rebelling against society, not for our own need to be authentic, but actually for the need to help other people. So some of the illusions of Aquarius actually does really well here, as it did when this Rahu Ketu axis started, right? In Leo and Aquarius. And then we've got Magha trining Mula. Easy peasy. This is about controlling and taming the wilder sides of our nature. But whereas Mula does it simply through venturing outside its immediate environment, Magha does it by going to the depths of unknown worlds in order to do that shadow work and in order to really get to know their animal selves and then come out the other side with a stronger sense of self. And I feel like not only will we rebel against society in a way that actually means something, when it comes to us actually like taming our inner natures, it just feels very grounded here. It feels really grounded, and it feels like we will have a very wise understanding of who we are by the time this nodal axis ends in November. We will have a very grounded understanding of who we are and a grounded understanding of ourselves. Once again, use that Uttara Bhadrapada Saturn. I'm telling you, use it. Use it. Use it. It's great energy to use. Also with that Jupiter in Pusha, again, expect blessings, you know, and that will very nicely supplement the Rahu sextiling ascendant transit energy. That aspect, Jupiter will actually aid that beautifully because of the blessings that come forth. Yeah, we are going to be forced to make some cuts because of that Mars in Critica. We are going to be forced to cut some things out of our lives to make room for what we actually truly need. Venus in Cancer, I don't know, man. Venus and Mercury in Cancer and Jupiter. Venus, Mercury, and Jupiter in Cancer. It means that there are blessings in communication and love coming around, but it's in a weird sort of way because it's not. Because Jupiter is an exalt, right? But Mercury and Venus are in signs that are, you know, they're kind of uncomfortable in Cancer. So it's like we can't really trust our logic too much. We can't really trust like standard logic. We have to go by, like, we have to follow Jupiter's lead, in the sense that we have to, you know, when it comes to blessings in communication and blessings in love, we have to follow our emotions, and we have to follow the spiritual knowledge of Jupiter rather than the logical aspects of Mercury or the logical aspects of Venus. We have to focus on the more spiritual aspects, follow Spirit's lead in terms of getting the love and getting, you know, the success that we're looking for. Yeah, we have to follow our emotions, and we have to follow our blessings as well. We have to follow our blessings. So yeah, that's tricky energy to deal with. And then we've got the sun and moon, very opposite. You've got Ardra and Purva Ashada, Ardra sun and Purva Ashada moon. That's karma, isn't it? We've got Purva Ashada, which is mastered in karma, and Ardra, which is just coming into it. So there's passion there. And it's not the kind of passion that is small. It's very, very big. It feels big. I feel like there will be some passionate relationships here because of it. Now I got to get into the life path of this nodal axis. The life path is number 7. And the best way to deal with this number 7 energy of, you know, to learn and to discover different things, to get to the root of different things. Number 7 is also Ketu, just to point that out, and Venus. So in order to get to the root and learn new things and understand new things, the best way to deal with that is to continue from the nodal axis of the 20th of April, to continue from there, continue traveling, going to different places, you know, go meeting different people, trying new things. Continuing to do that is going to, you know, it's going to really reinforce, you know, it's going to reinforce your ability to learn new things and to understand things on a deeper level. Okay. So that is Mula that is Mula. No, it's not Mula. It's Dhanishta, Aquarius in Rahu, and Magha, Leo in Ketu. Sorry. Brain's not working properly, sorry. Okay, so I've got some notes to add to all this about all the axes that I've noted today. So I'm going to get on with that. Now, when it comes to the Purva Bhadrapada and Uttara Palguni axis, this is about wealth via freedom. So achieving wealth, the wealth of Purva Bhadrapada, through the freedom of Uttara Palguni. That's on the 29th of May 2025. For normal notes, we've got navigating poor self-esteem and understanding purity of intention. We've got problems with leadership. Remedy is to enjoy being different. Okay, so those are the normal notes that I've written down. Important note is navigating crystallizing karma, past life, and mental blockages. So those are normal notes, but the most important ones here are love and dedication to our spouse. That's reflected in both Purva Bhadrapada and Uttara Bhadrapada. Prosperity through marriage, that's the axis 2. Seeing the future beyond the mundane, and testing periods and sacrifice. So all of these things are not core tenets of the Purva Bhadrapada and Uttara Palguni axis. These things are the commonalities between the two, which is different. Okay. So it's really about, it's about prosperity through marriage, but also love through marriage as well. So it's about marriage. It's about the marriage of duality, but it can be about the marriages of people as well. So maybe expect more marriages during this time. And testing periods, being able to see see beyond the mundane, right? Being able to see beyond that. That's also Uttara Palguni and Purva Bhadrapada. So it's about being able to see beyond our own noses and also merging together, marriage, merging, collaborative efforts. All right. So we've got the Purva nodal axis, Purva Palguni and Purva Bhadrapada, which is on the 7th of June, 2025. And we achieve that same wealth through passion. So normal notes are problems with crystallizing karma, past life, and purity of intention. We talked about that during the previous axis, and not truly wanting to enjoy the good or pleasure received. So our problems with our past behaviors, our past living, they're kind of getting in the way of our ability to enjoy our lives here. Okay. But the most important notes are the ones that unite Purva Bhadrapada and Purva Palguni. It's magic and manifestation and deep occult knowledge, union, sexual passion, and spousal dedication. That's procreation. So once again, we have union. We have union being a recurring theme here, but unlike that axis with Uttara Palguni, which is more about coming together, not necessarily for love, but for power and for prestige and for freedom. Now we're coming together like genuinely for love, like sexual passion and love are definitely part of the conversation here. So again, there might be there might be people coming together that were meant to come together, but they're drawn together through passion and chemical reaction rather than the need to establish something. And then on top of that, there's the attraction to magic and manifestation and deep occult knowledge. So collectively, we may be more interested in magic, may be more interested in manifesting what we want, and being a bit more invested in that. So that was for the Purva nodal axis. Now I've got to get to the Shatabisha axis. We're still in Purva Palguni when it comes to rejection of pleasure and comfort. But also with Shatabisha Rahu, we have powerful duality, angelic and demonic. And we have deep cosmic connection when it comes to Shatabisha Rahu. And then we've got creating and piercing a veil, deep occult knowledge. That's for both Shatabisha and Purva Palguni. Sorry. Shatabisha and PP. Creating and piercing a veil, deep occult knowledge. We've got ambition, achievement, talent, and gifts. And we've got luxury, comfort, relaxation, and healing. So it's all about, Shatabisha is the elite of the elites here. They're the ones who rise to the top of, social social clout and social, all these things. Like Shatabisha is the height of illusion, which means it's the height of pleasure, the height of fashion, the height of all these things that people enjoy. It's in Shatabisha, right? So we may experience a deeper connection to luxury and comfort, but also we're still in the occult here. We're still deep in the knowledge only. Unlike Purva Palguni and Purva Bhadrapada, we're going even deeper into the more taboo areas of magic here, even to the into the more taboo areas of magic, into more selfish drives when it comes to what we want to accomplish. Like we're delving even deeper into the underworld, and the underworld is not hell. The underworld is to do with all the pleasures and the riches of life. That's in the underworld. It's not hell. So that's what we're venturing into. Yeah. So there's a deep theme of, really finding our morals through engaging with what we love and engaging what really, all the things that we find sumptuous, like us finding our morals and finding our integrity are not in spite of our pleasures. They're because of our pleasures. It's like I said, we have to find our joy and our destiny. So it's because of our pleasure that we actually find what we're supposed to be doing. So that's the Shatabisha axis for the 1st of December 2025. But again, we have to be careful of that clinging, right? So let's have a look at the I think we're on the right track here. Let's have a look at the Magha axis, right? That's at the 20th of April 2026. Is that everything? Yeah, I think that's everything. So we have to look at the Magha axis. Hold on. Where's the Danish dawn? Yeah, the 30th of June. Yeah. I thought I had it written down here, but yeah, so we're looking at the 20th of, yes, we're looking at the 20th of April 2026 for the time being, the Magha axis. So we're still in Shatabisha Rahu, but now we've entered Magha Ketu, okay? And what this is about is instead of finding who we are through love and passion and what we enjoy, like with the December axis, with the April axis, it's about finding out who we are and finding out ethics through our wealth. In the same way that common law was created through property ownership, we find ways to make our lives more ethical by actually focusing on protecting what we've gained, right? Now, the normal notes here are we have powerful duality and deep cosmic connection and dealing with past karma. So, unlike Purva Palguni, which punishes ourselves for the past, in Magha Ketu, we're actually dealing with the past. We're actually looking at it clearly and we're not running away from it, which is really good. And we embrace the duality that comes from exploring our future and what we want to. So we're still on the powerful duality and deep cosmic connection when it comes to our futures. When it comes to the most important notes which unite Magha and Shatabisha, we've got duty, honor, and courage. We've got the veil, which is mystery and reservedness. They kind of go hand in hand. And also steadfastness, which is both Shatabisha and Magha. We've got magnificence, achievement, authority, and ambition. The drive to be the best of the best. Only again with Shatabisha, you're more likely to believe it because of the likability factor. And then you've got traditional ancestral knowledge, futurism, and left-hand tantra, which is the dark tantra, all that type of stuff. Yeah, like I said, it's about Magha exploring the underworld and coming out the other side. They come out the other side through exploring their sensuality, not rejecting it. So, yeah, so there's a very clear connection between past and future here. And instead of there being conflict, there's actually kind of a union here of past and, of past and future. There's a union here. There's not so much conflict between these two because they're both on the same page. But whereas Shatabisha has to stay in the underworld, Magha's got to pass through it. So it's like Magha goes to Shatabisha, okay, you're staying here? Staying here in the underworld? Shatabisha's like, yep. Okay, take it easy. I'm gonna head out. Yeah. So that's where these two nakshatras are at. In spite of the square with the moon, the nakshatras, this axis within itself, not problematic because they're both headed towards the same place. They're just not staying in the same place. Okay. And again, the ways in which to find our moral center or our ethical center, we find our morals through what we love, right? But we find our ethics through what we gain. Okay. So that's the most important thing to note here. And now the last one that I've got to talk about is the axis of Magha and Dhanishta, which takes place on the 30th of June, 2026. And we're back at the same place. We find our ethics via wealth. The normal notes is that we're searching for both material and emotional wealth, and we're searching from our past as well as our future. So if Magha and Shatabisha were on the same page, Magha and Dhanishta are even more on the same page. Okay. So we've got that, and then we've got, the commonalities between them, which are wealth, magnificence, authority, and fame. So fame is a big one that unites Magha and Dhanishta. Dhanishta finds themselves gaining fame when they never really wanted it. And Magha really wants fame. So it's like, fame is the thing that unites them as well. We've got the left hand of magic and the ability to manifest something from nothing. So left hand magic is so-called black magic. It's stronger magic, right? And then we go up a gear and we talk about manifesting something from nothing. So it's like, we take what's in our minds and we manifest with those things, which is basically what Dhanishta is about. Dhanishta is about taking what's in their imagination and incorporating it into their image and into their lives. That's what we mean by creating something from nothing. So the magic and this level of manifestation working together is incredibly powerful. And yeah, that's what unifies Magha and Dhanishta. And then we've got organization, achievement, duty and honor, courage and motivation. So Dhanishta is good at keeping things orderly, and Magha also thrives on routine. And then we've got courage and motivation, which both Magha and Dhanishta have. So it's, if Magha and Shatapisha were harmonious, then Magha and Dhanishta are even more harmonious, like I said before. This is where we may find the least trouble uniting the two. Uniting Leo and Aquarius. This is where we may find the least trouble, because it is ultimately about using our joy and taking the imagination from that joy to communicate to the world at large, which is a very smooth affair, usually. It's a smoother affair than, say, trying to like integrate yourself with the world whilst at the same time being apart from it, like Uttara Palguni and Purva Bhajpada, which is where we start. Yeah, there's more harmony here during the Leonine axis of the 30th of the 6th, 2026. There's more harmony here. So yeah, those are the additional notes for the transits. I'm actually gonna go because I feel like I need to do a part 2. What I'm actually going to do with the part 2, I'm going to upload the live on Empress Justice Tarot. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to upload that particular reading onto both tarot and astrology. So part 2, part 1 is going to be on this channel because we've spoken specifically about astrology, right? We haven't gone into the tarot. But in the next video, I am going to go into the tarot. So I'm going to be filming the live on Empress Justice Tarot. And then I'm going to upload it on astrology and tarot on YouTube. That's what I'm going to do. That's how I'm going to handle it. So yeah. That was the astrological reading. And as it turns out, part 1 of the Rahu Ketu axis for Aquarius and Leo, respectively. I have been Empress Justice. I hope all of this has made sense to you. I never really know what I'm saying until after I've said it. So yeah, I hope everything made sense to you. Like I will timestamp everything. Let me know if it makes sense. And yes, I will see you in the next video. Peace and blessings. Bye bye, my darlings.